can't be bought or sold. Why do they hide the ball? The lies which are spoken and stories told will be their downfall. On the road, traveling for truth, a journey unknown. From ocean sides to the center lines, we'll find the answers never shown. shadows loom, we plant a seed. The sun comes up and the flowers bloom. Truth shall be freed. A journey unknown, from ocean sides to the center lines, we'll find the answers never
All right, welcome to Crimes After Dark. Hopefully you can hear me. You got a thumbs up on the backstage. Let me know that you guys hear me. Perfect. All right, so welcome to another Crimes After Dark episode. We do this nightly at the same time, 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and we've got a smaller crew at the moment. We are even lucky to be here right now. We had some notifications that StreamYard was having some issues broadcasting to YouTube, but it looks like we are there and we are on, and the crowd is coming in. So thank you for joining us on whatever the hell night this is. Is this what night is this? Oh my gosh, I'm so tired of losing days. This is Tuesday, I believe. But wow. So thanks for coming in. I've got a video coming out tomorrow that is pretty dense. We'll talk about that a little bit on the panel. So I'm going to go ahead and bring my panel up. We've got Robin, we've got JJ, Stay of the Deep. 1-1 is coming late. His schedule is all over the place, so bear with him. He will be here. Robin will have the monologue for him, and we will kick this sucker off. This is a great night to join us on stage. So if you've never done it before, please consider taking the invite. I'll have Robin stick the invite out there. It's just a link. You can click on it. You can choose not to share your camera. You can choose to share your camera. You should, though, at least share your microphone so we can hear you. But if you just want to have a thumbnail on the generic image, that's fine with us. Come up, say hi, talk to us about videos that have come out recently on the channel. Talk to us about the true crime channels that we follow, or the cases that we follow, and channels. We follow channels as well. And I'll tell you a little bit about the big video that's coming out tomorrow in the Delphi case. In the meantime, let's get Robin on stage. Robin, oh, I'm bringing you up on stage, and you've got the monologue. We're going to bring you on, and then we'll have JJ, and we'll come back to you for the monologue. How about that? How do you
No problem. It's all good. I'm good, thank you. How about yourself, sir?
I'm doing okay. I'm recovering after a big long hike. I overdid it this year on my first major hike, and my thighs are swollen like you wouldn't believe. I'm finally able to walk. I think after the third day, I have had a hard time walking, and I can finally start to walk.
Being able to walk is good. Okay.
Oh my gosh! And I don't whimper like a freaking baby when I try to climb into bed because my legs are just shot. Like wow, wow. Anyways, my thighs are rock hard though. So there's that.
Oh my. Well, I guess that's a good thing.
How's your day?
It was good. It was good. Doing some work for the channel and things like that. So I had some extra time to do that today. So yeah, it was good. So lots of good stuff coming, people. You never know when we're going to be premiering new things. So you want to keep coming early like you did tonight. It's great to see all of you guys in here, really happy about that.
Yeah, in fact, you think we're gonna have that tomorrow? Can I talk a little bit about it?
We are. Yeah. We are.
So tomorrow, if you hear the same song and you think you're seeing the same video, pay attention. The video's got changes to it. It's got some really cool added shit. So when you think I've been there, done that, hang out. There's some cool surprises in there, some neat stuff. You're going to want to check it out. Robin's been working very, very hard, and I love what you're doing with it. I would say you've probably got a good 75 or 80% done now. You're almost finished.
About 75%, and I'll be able to finish it up between tonight and tomorrow. And so, you're going to want to tune in for that. So the adventure continues.
That's right. Get your ass to work. Well, all right. Anything else you want to share with us before we bring JJ up, and then we'll come back to you for the monologue. All right, let's get JJ.
Sounds good.
JJ, what's up?
What's up, DA? What's up, Robin? Denizens.
Hey.
Stray meatballs. Mods. Hello.
It is good to see you. By the way, I'm trying to. Sometimes I have to check my email as we're on the show because I forgot there's things that I've got out there in the wind that would be nice to announce on the show. But anyways, tell us how your day was. Is there anything special in your day?
It was just a regular old day. I rushed home after work, so I got here just in the nick of time. And as I said, I have a couple of long weekends coming up. I'm going to work on my channel. Because my gigs, this Sunday is my last gig for the season. So,
wow.
Then I have like a month, roughly, month and a half off because it's, resort area. So once the mountain closes, everything dies down until the mountain reopens, the trails open and stuff like that, which is typically, beginning of the summer, beginning of June. And then I'll start gigging again, but I'll have the downtime to work on stuff and record my first few videos. So that's going to be
nice.
Good that I have the extra time. So it's going to give me a little breathing room.
Well, that's probably a win for us. We get to see you a little bit more often, so that's good for our situation. So
I'll have a lot more time between this coming weekend and probably beginning of June.
Good. I like it. I dig it. It's good to have you on the show, and hopefully we'll talk some cool stuff. I was wondering, let's get the monologue. Let's get the monologue, Doug, and then we're going to talk about my video tomorrow because I don't know how much you know about that case, but we'll talk a little bit about that. So what do you got, Robin? Let's do a monologue. What do you think?
All right. Okay. So that was my other crime cat. That was Sasha. So some people in the chat were like, what cat is that? So, all right. So here we go. There is a moment right before the truth surfaces when everything feels uncertain, where facts blur into theories, where headlines become narratives, and where the line between justice and assumption quietly disappears. This isn't a show about easy answers. This is a place where we slow things down, pull apart the story, and ask the questions most people are too uncomfortable to say out loud. Because in true crime, what you're told and what actually happened aren't always the same thing. Tonight, we step into the gray, not the polished version of events, not the version wrapped up neatly for the public, but the messy middle, the contradictions, the overlooked details, the pieces that don't quite fit yet refuse to go away. This is where pressure builds, where timelines start to crack, where witness statements shift, and evidence starts telling a story of its own. And sometimes that story doesn't match the one we've been given. At Devil's Advocates, we don't claim to know everything, but we do believe this. Every case deserves to be examined. Every voice deserves to be heard. And every conclusion, no matter how widely accepted, deserves to be questioned. Not for the sake of controversy, but for the sake of truth. Because behind every case file, every courtroom moment, and every viral headline, there are real people, real families, real loss, real lives that don't get the luxury of speculation. They live with the consequences of it. So tonight, we dig deeper. We challenge the assumptions. We revisit what's been accepted as fact. And we put everything, every claim, every timeline, every detail under the microscope. Not to defend, not to accuse, but to understand. Because sometimes the truth isn't obvious. Sometimes it's buried under noise, bias, and momentum. And sometimes it's waiting for someone willing to ask, what if we've been looking at this all wrong? This is Devil's Advocates, where we don't follow the narrative, we question it. Where we don't rush to judgment, we examine it. And where the goal isn't to take sides, it's to get closer to the truth. Welcome to Devil's Advocates. And with that, live from PA, it's Tuesday night.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Appreciate that. And
Yeah.
by the way, send that link out if you haven't for people to join
Yep.
us on stage. Tonight's a great night to come up and join us if you would like.
I
It's
will
going to
do
be
it now.
low key little sucker until
I know.
1-1 joins us as well. I'm trying to remember how much JJ you know about the Delphi case. Have you done much into that? I know you looked into a couple of documentaries, but is that about as far as you've gone, or have you looked at?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't really followed the appeal stuff
Yeah.
that much, just because I've been. I do still follow the Charlie Kirk case and the Idaho 4 on Reddit and all. I watch a ton of videos on online as well, so I haven't really followed much of the Delphi follow-up stuff that's happened, other than what I've heard on with you guys.
Yeah.
On here.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, I myself I came into the Delphi case later. And by the way, if I didn't say it, Rob, did I say thank you for the monologue? It was a great monologue. Did I just completely blow you off and like just jump away from you?
No,
Oh,
you
okay.
thank me. Yeah.
That was great.
I just feel bad. I messed up the beginning a little bit. I forgot to do. I forgot to do the intro to the intro. Sorry.
Right. No, it's all good. It's all good. It's funny because I came in late to the Delphi case myself, and I'm putting out a video tomorrow on the Delphi case. It ran an hour and 17 minutes long, and it's pretty fucking dense. Like it's oh, if I drop the F-bomb, I should probably put the especially since there's only 3 of us, the parental discretion is advised warning on my thing. But anyways, it's a little dense, but I was digging into. Are you familiar with the name? And now I know people who follow Delphi will recognize it, but do you remember the name at all? Keegan or Keegan Klein?
Yeah, I really do remember that name.
And Ricky Davis. So Ricky Davis was a prisoner that basically said Ron Logan confessed to the murders to him while in prison. Actually reached out to the prosecutor McClelland and said, you got the wrong guy. Ron Logan confessed to it, and he gave details, and it was very detailed. I went and I dug back into that and to Keegan Klein's luring the girls to the bridge. He literally was going to meet Libby at Monon High Bridge that day. And claims that she stood him up and she didn't show up, but he had made an appointment to do that. And not ironic, that's not the right word. Oddly enough, she ends up dead the same day that he's supposed to meet her at the bridge, and yet wasn't really considered a major suspect. And for 3 years, basically was treated as a never mind, even though the girls were interacting with his alter ego, Anthony Schatz,
right.
Faking that he was this young hot boy that drove a Ferrari, and she was obsessed with them and stuff like that. I just find the story, as I dug into it, more fascinating than I even imagined. I did a big video on it where I read court documents. I read the probable cause affidavit for his arrest. I read details about his cell phone interactions, and some shocking details came out of that. I hope people. I guess that's my shameless plug. I hope you'll give that video a chance tomorrow. Even if you're in the case and know all about what I'm talking about, you might want to see what my thought was as I look at some of that evidence for the very first time. I tend to see things a little differently than other people. So I encourage you to do that. And hopefully tomorrow, if you get a chance, I know you're all working and stuff like that, but if you get a chance to watch the video, maybe we can talk about that at length tomorrow. But I just wanted to see if you knew anything about those names, and it sounds like you did. So
yeah, I did.
Definitely.
I did some. When you first started talking about the case, I did summaries of the case, including alternative suspects and things like that. Just so I at least had a general idea of what was going on. And then I watched at least one or two, maybe two documentaries that people had recommended
Yeah.
in the very beginning, and that's a while ago now. So I just haven't followed up on the appeal. But one of the things you had talked about in one of the videos that you had done, I believe it was one of your long form videos. It seems pretty clear that the way the justice system works is like we need to have a person
Yeah.
to run
Mm-hmm.
through the system,
Yes.
Yep.
right, to get our guy, quote unquote, right?
Right.
And if somebody that was a suspect dies, then
Right.
they don't get their guy, so to
Yeah.
speak,
Right.
Yeah.
right? Which I remember at the time you had linked it to the other BK,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
So it really makes you think. And I had a debate with somebody within the last week on Reddit regarding I had posted your Kopaka video on Reddit, the
Oh,
one
wow. Thank
about
you.
him living in Pennsylvania, him and his brother.
Yeah.
And I got like 5 people. Well, I don't understand. What's the significance? And I explained it's because
Yeah.
for a long time it was there's no connection between those two guys, and you're crazy. He didn't live in
Yeah.
Pennsylvania, et cetera, et cetera. So I explained that. And then I had to
Yeah.
battle back and forth with people about one of my theories, which was
Yeah.
would they try to obscure the involvement of a decorated
Yeah.
82nd Airborne veteran, right? If they
Yeah.
had somebody else that they could use in their place,
Ooh.
right? So, you know, that whole you got to have that the person to run them through the system to get what you want to get out of it, and it makes a
Yeah.
lot of sense.
Yeah, I appreciate you sharing that and doing that. And La Fugitiva says she's got an interview for a criminal appeals paralegal tomorrow and so nervous. Well, congratulations that you are in the opportunity to go for that kind of job. And good luck to you. I hope you do well on
Yeah.
that. Thank you for
Good
sharing.
luck.
I hope that if you have good news, come share it with us. You probably wouldn't want to share it if it was bad news,
Yeah,
but come share it when you do
definitely.
have good news. That's amazing. So good to hear that. Yeah, I mean, and it was kind of funny because I didn't even really think about it at the time, but once it was said, it made sense. There's not really money to go stick your officers on cold cases, right? It's something that you do when you have downtime and you're not chasing a real story. So if you got downtime, you're like, well, shit, what do we do? I guess we'll pull out some of these unsolved murders or whatever, cold cases, and see if we can solve it. It's something you do to fill time. There's no overtime pay for chasing cold cases. There's no money in chasing cold cases, and there's no glory in chasing cold cases, really. What brings the money in is overtime pay for a lead suspect that you're going to bring to trial, that you're going to prosecute, you're going to win, you're going to bolster your conviction rate that year. That's going to help you with more money and more money and more. Everything is about going after live suspects and not dead ones. So yeah, in the Delphi case, when Ron Logan, who was a suspect, died of COVID, completely unrelated to anything, there might have been a financial incentive to go after somebody who's actually alive, especially if they thought, and here's the kicker to my video tomorrow, especially if any of them thought that it was more than one person. If it's more, and it's the same thing with the BK thing. If somebody thought it was more than one person and one of them died, you just shift it to one of the living suspects and continue to go forward on the living suspect. And so it seems like an obvious thing when you think about it.
Yeah, but it's at some point in time, I can't recall when I started to notice it. I'm sure one would have a lot better insights into this, but there was a point in time where law enforcement started to shift to revenue generation, right? So rather than, well, we're going to solve crimes and we're going to prevent crimes and we're going to break cold cases, it became, how do we generate revenue?
Yeah.
And it was a pretty noticeable change. And I know I've said it before, I have a lot of friends that were either, you know, state troopers or even feds, you know, detectives, many people that I was friends with that were in law enforcement. And I noticed that change because there was a time I would talk to them about stuff, you know, just like, oh, how's it going? How's your job going these days? And they would say, like, there's pressure to bring in revenue.
Yeah.
You know, the officers
Yeah.
would actually, it was like a kind of a known thing.
They just say it, right? Yeah.
I'm
So
guessing it was probably around the 70s.
Yeah, I mean,
That
I don't.
I think it started shifting 70s, 80s. It started shifting to more of a model like that is where I maybe a little before, but right probably around in those two eras is where it seems to me that it started shifting.
Because you remember, like, you watch all these like, for example, the Kodiak killer, right? You watch those
Right.
documentaries; they were like really investigating that case.
Yes.
You look at the case, like I lived in Brooklyn during the Son of Sam stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I was there when it was happening. I was a little kid,
Yeah.
but I remember it. I was there for the blackout. And it was the blackout was at the same time as the Son of Sam stuff. I was there. I remember it as a kid. And you watch the documentaries, they had all the manpower, every detective, every, investigator
Mm-hmm.
was working on those cases. Now,
Yeah.
it just seems like there's no real interest in solving cases. There's just interest in getting somebody to
Right.
prosecute for the cases.
Well, and part of that is because there's too much emphasis on, like you're saying, the money aspect, especially if you're in a touristy type area. We don't want it getting out that there could be this serial killer or whatever, because it'll ruin, the tourist trade and the money coming into the area and everything. Instead of focusing on actual justice, everybody is focused too much on money, and it's the same way with the prison system.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
follow
for
the money.
profit.
Everything's about money. Yeah, everything's
Yeah.
yeah. There are yeah, exactly. Our prison systems are a profit generating monster. It's why we incarcerate more people than any other country as far as per capita. We incarcerate more of our people than anybody else in the civilized world. It seems like so.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's a reason for that. It's big business. We've turned in America, and we've turned everything into business. Everything is into how do you
Right.
make more money? How do you make more money? Even when it
Yeah.
comes at the sake of people's lives, sadly, that's what.
And that's
Exactly.
why I always say corruption trickles down. Because
Mm-hmm.
if the federal government is co-opted by the banking cartel, then that's going to trickle down because the federal
Right.
government is not going to tell lower forms of government, oh, you can't make it about money when that's what
Yeah.
they're doing. So
Right.
I really strongly believe that. I believe that corruption trickles down, even if it's not direct, it's by
Right.
influence. It trickles down.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
for sure. Yeah. How come you went off camera there, Robin? What's going on?
Huh?
You went off camera.
I'll be right back. Don't worry, I'm
okay.
right here. Don't
After
panic.
these messages, we'll be right back.
Show my age there. That was during all those good 80s cartoons when they had those little, what was it? What Schoolhouse Rock.
So, oh, by the way, you sent me you're now that you're stepping away or whatever. Are you stepping away or are you just
No, I'm right here.
Okay. Can you summarize? I know you sent it to me, and I told you I was heavy into this Delphi video I was making for tomorrow. An eighth victim is going to be confessed to by Rex
Karen
Vergata. Vergata. Okay, so I know the name Karen Vergata. That was not one of his original 7 that they were charging him with.
No,
and he's confessing to that one as well.
Yeah, and so tomorrow, I mean, it is pretty much a done deal that he is going to be pleading guilty. Now, what they're offering him and what he's going to give up, I certainly hope that there's going to be some allocution. There are going to be several people that we follow at the courthouse. Mary Murphy, I cannot wait to hear her account. She, for those who don't know Mary Murphy, you need to check out her website. She has been following, the Gilgo Beach murders from the beginning, when she was a TV reporter. So, yeah, she has tons of information. I think Josh Zeman is going to be there I'm not sure if Joe Jackalone is going to be there or not. Sarge, True Crime with the Sarge, but there's a bunch. So there's going to be a lot of people that are going to be reporting that we're going
Yeah.
to be able to get information from, because, as we all know, New York does not allow cameras in the courtroom. So,
Is Karen Vergata one of the earliest ones, the very like
yeah,
from the 1990s that they
yeah,
ruled out as being his? I see, and
mhm,
and they early
yep,
on she was considered. That's what I. It's funny because I told somebody that the murders at least started back as 1990s, and someone said no, that's not true.
yes,
They're all 2000. I'm like, there was one
yeah,
name I couldn't
no,
remember. I think it was Vergata, wasn't it?
I think I'm pretty sure it's her.
Yeah,
Um, but yeah, so, and there was you know, and Mary, who is, like I said, been following this, she and many others who are considered quote unquote experts on this crimes, uh, say that there's no way there's not more victims out there. So
oh yeah,
that
yeah.
is the mystery to me, as far as how many people potentially could start to get justice as things more and more are attributed to Rex. Is Rex going to possibly finger someone else in these crimes? Because I'm still not convinced that there could not have been a network working at the time. So, and it seems to me that that would be a feather in Ray Tierney's cap, to have, be able to say, not only can we place him there with these crimes, but potentially someone else as well. So,
Well, it's funny you mentioned the feather in Tierney's cap, because just getting the one extra was a feather in his
right,
cap, right? Because there's no way he
right,
was going to offer a plea deal without something above the just confessing
right,
to the 7. So I'm sure that was part of the deal. Like, give me one name at least more than what we already got you for, or we're not even talking about a plea deal. So then he would come to sweeten the
right,
pot. But again, then the question becomes, what is he getting in return? Like, what could
right.
they possibly offer him? He's only
Um,
facing life in prison without the possibility of parole. So how's that going to change for him?
mainly, mainly from my understanding, it's going to be kind of like creature comforts while he's in there. What perks is he going to get in exchange for giving up more information? That's what the kind of like the
Yeah,
rumor on the street is, kind of with that, is that in order for him to give up info, maybe he'll get more
come for your
housing yards,
cell
more
and
food,
private accommodations.
whatever.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, that kind of thing. So maybe he'll get HBO. I don't,
yeah.
But I
but
mean, if he
yeah,
doesn't allocute, I'm gonna throw up the red
flip my
flag
board.
because it,
Yeah,
you know what
What
I'm
do you
saying?
what would
My mind's gonna go to, they didn't want shit to come out about dirty cops, right?
right?
So they said,
mm-hmm,
look, we're gonna make things easier for you on the inside. So you're not gonna give up, that's backroom deals, man. You're not going to give up any more information about other people. You give us a little something or cop to this person's death. What does it matter? You're going away
So
anyway.
I'm a pessimist. And in my mind, so let's make sure people understand what allocution is in case people don't understand what that is. So I think what we're
right,
talking about is Rex Heuermann making some kind of formal statement and giving us details, right? Not just doing the whole, yeah, I plead guilty, thank you, and go away. Like he's gotta give us something, tell us something, give us details we didn't know, so that we can put some things to rest. And the part that I'm saying about me being a pessimist is I believe prosecutors always work closely with law enforcement. There is no way in hell Ray Tierney is going to let Rex Heuermann give up dirty cops, because prosecutors and law enforcement are glove and glove. The law enforcement gets them a name, and the prosecutor goes and puts their guy away, and they work together every step of the way, as happened in Bill Thompson and Moscow Police Department. They work hand in hand from day one of the scene. So no, in my opinion, Ray Tierney is going to have no interest in hearing any Rex Heuermann's bullshit about bad cops, because that's not where they want to go. The only thing, in my opinion, as a pessimist or a cynic, or whatever, cynic, there you go. This probably as a cynic, is he would give them more victims that they can close cases on and say,
right,
I'm going to give you bodies. I'm going to give you locations of bodies to prove that this one's mine, this one's mine, this one's mine. And if he does that, then you have to ask the question, and I'll let you talk because I'm running my mouth long, Is he doing it just to show off, to pad his numbers and say, look at what a badass killer I am. I killed all these people. And is it almost like a claim to fame for him to be able to come up there and list more names? If he's only listing one, it doesn't feel like it's that latter. But what do you guys think what do you think, what's the best thing you realistically expect from Rex Heuermann for allocution? What do you think he's going to say that would make you think that was what you wanted to hear?
I would hope for more than one more victim. Not for that sounds bad. I would hope for more justice.
Yeah.
More justice for whatever victims Rex is responsible for. So that is my hope, because there are so many families around that area who are missing their daughter, their mother, their sister, their best friend from that area, and potentially New Jersey. I mean, he has a home in South Carolina. He reportedly at one time maybe had property in Alaska. I mean, so there are more victims out there who deserve justice as well. And I'm still holding out hope that we may find out something about Shannon Gilbert.
That's where I'm going too. I'm like, I want to see if he can close the book on Shannon Gilbert in some way. What do you think, JJ? What's the best case scenario you think he can do for us?
I mean, I honestly don't think that's going to happen. Yeah. I think that he made a backroom deal, and he's not going to give up the people that he was associated with, that at the very least may have had knowledge of his crimes, that may have been in law enforcement back in the day or whatever. And I tend to feel like he doesn't strike me as and all right, think about this. Bundy, right?
Yeah.
A guy like Bundy, who was super in your face and ostentatious, and he liked drama, and he was flamboyant in the courtroom. He didn't give up all his victims. Yeah. Because there recently wasn't there a victim found that was attributed to Bundy that he never gave up, like their location and things like that. So the idea that someone like Heuermann, who doesn't appear to be really dramatic and wanting all this attention, at least publicly, I just don't feel like he's going to do that. I think they probably said, give us something and we'll make it easier for you on the inside. But don't give up anything that it's damning for the NYPD in any way, or Long Island PD in that area. I'm just very cynical, I guess. Ultimately.
Yeah, no, I'm the same way. I don't think they would allow him to give up any police officers. In fact, if anything, and this is really cynical, there was rumors out there that he may have partied with James Burke, the chief of police. And so if anything, they'd want him to close the book on those rumors and say, nope, it was me and it was me alone. And anything that you might have suspected him involved in, it wasn't him, without saying it, like, saying it without saying it, like put the rumors to bed that he could have been involved in any of these things. And it was all me, all alone. I did it. To close the book on the rumors that there was police officers or chief of police who were covering for Rex Heuermann and dismantling the task force so that they wouldn't make the connections. But
maybe Rex isn't going to say anything, but who will? Our good buddy John Ray.
Oh yeah, right. Yes.
There was a press conference today with Asa's lawyer, Asa Victoria's lawyer.
Yeah, yeah.
And he was basically slamming John Ray. Well, as we all know, John Ray doesn't back down from anybody.
Right.
And so if John Ray has information, he will come forward at the right time, and so that, and I mean, now someone in the chat, I do want to address this real quick, was asking about Shannon Gilbert. We do not know that she is attributed to Rex. There's been speculation that she could be attributed to him. It seems odd that she may not be, but she, That has not been confirmed nor denied either way as regarding that. So
there was affidavits given to John Ray that Shannon Gilbert had a run-in with Rex Heuermann in the past, and that had it's not outside the possibility she had met him before. There's a story that's a it's attested to in an affidavit that she had run into Rex Heuermann before. So yeah.
So
but whether he was involved that night, we don't know. But
so we may not hear anything from Rex, but if John Ray has a story to tell, he will tell it at the appropriate time. And Mr. Ray is quite masterful at that. So
do you think it's possible?
Do
you think it's possible, Robin? I mean, look, I feel like the Shannon Gilbert case is a case that a lot of people in America want to put to bed and know the story. And I know a lot of people are trying to confirm whether Rex Heuermann was or wasn't involved in Shannon Gilbert's. If I'm right, and a lot of people know about Shannon Gilbert's story, could that be the bombshell that's going to come out in this plea deal? Is he's going to say something about Shannon Gilbert, and maybe they're just keeping it on the down low right now, but that's going to come out. And that's what I'm wondering is, could it, because that's the kind of level. The Shannon Gilbert story is the kind of level of something that he would give them something that they're like, okay, I'll talk plea deal if you could close the books on the Shannon Gilbert thing. But
and that is my hope, because for so long, and either way, to have confirmation one way or another will be great. If it is that Shannon is attributed to Rex, if he does admit that she was one of his, it's a shame that her mother, in a way, is not alive to see justice brought forward for her girl. She never gave up hope, and John Ray stood by that whole entire family, still stands by them. So I'm holding out a little bit of hope that we will hear something one way or another about that. That would be definitely a bombshell for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, if the feds have their way, they may be sitting on, I'm saying if the feds, they have authority over just about everything. And if they want to wait and time a bombshell when it would be a good distraction for the public, they often might hold back information until it is timely for them to release it. For the we know what's going on right now in the world, and distractions are used frequently with the public, and the mainstream media works hand in glove with the government for releasing information in a timely fashion. So as I always say, nothing would surprise me.
I really wish we were in a better position. At one point, we had enough money in the coffers. We probably could have flown out to New York. I would love to be there for the actual plea deal. But but it just, we're not a good time with CrimeCon coming up. We're tapped like.
I'm going to throw something at you guys.
Yeah,
that we've never talked about on here. Do you remember the case? It was I don't know, I'm guessing it was probably 10 years ago, thereabouts, maybe 11, maybe 12. But it was a huge national case. The woman, it was like Annette Saint Guillerme or something like that. She was a criminology student at John Jay College in New York.
Yeah.
And it was national news because she was bar hopping in New York, and then she disappeared, and they found her body dumped on the side of one of the cross, like one of the beltways. I can't remember which, Cross Bronx or one of those areas. And that was a major case. And we'll talk sometime, we'll talk about it off air. Some people in the chat, if you remember this case, it was huge. It was a national story. She was, a student at a criminology student, and basically, was it criminology, or I think it was criminology, and I had connections to that case because I worked for the family that owned the bar she was in when
Oh,
she
wow.
was last seen.
Yeah, wow.
And I'm not going to talk about it now. We can probably talk about it sidebar at some point in time, but I worked for that family, and they're a
Wow.
pretty extremely well-known and connected New York family. So, the CIA,
Wow.
you get opportunities like that when you work for the CIA. So,
Yeah,
but
definitely. Yeah.
that case is one that I'd be curious to know if people remember that case. It was like her
Yeah,
name. If someone could Google it, it's like Annette Saint Guilherme or something like that. And
Is that
it was a
ringing?
huge story. It was a huge story. And then this is the kind of how the story ended up wrapping up. A, a guy who was the bouncer at the bar where she was last seen was the one they convicted of it. And it's a pretty crazy story.
I'm looking to see if I can quickly find it based on what you've given me, and we'll see. Imet, I-M-E-T-T-E.
I can turn my volume up. Somebody said my volume is low.
You sound fine with me, and I looked at the settings. You're on auto. So Imet St. Guillen, New York,
Guillen.
2006. 24-year-old graduate student, John Jay College, Brooklyn, New York. Abduction, sexual assault, and murder. She was last seen leaving Manhattan bar called The Falls around 4 a.m. Her body was found 17 hours later in Brooklyn. She was bound, beaten, sexually assaulted, and suffocated. And convicted was the nightclub bouncer, Daryl Littlejohn, convicted of murder. So I found the case you're talking about. So yeah, we'll talk more about that maybe.
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
Yeah, because that was a pretty crazy case because of the things that led up to her disappearance, which again, I won't open that can of worms now, but it was an interesting one that I followed simply because, I had a peripheral connection to the people who owned that bar.
Oh, by the way, Essie pulled out the first of those victims. There was Sandra Castilla. That was 1993. She said.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. So see, and that's why they're now. Another bombshell would be if they found ones even before that, because they were starting to look at places around. I think it was St. John or Jones Beach.
Jones Beach. Yeah, Jones Beach. He had worked there. He had worked there like in high
because
school.
He had worked there.
Yeah, right.
He had worked around there when he was, late teens, early 20s.
Yeah.
And so they had found some suspicious things, and so they were starting to look around that area, to see if there are any other potential victims there. So
yeah.
Well, do you guys know that one of Bundy's victims was here where I live?
In Colorado?
Yeah, Colorado, yeah.
And so, I followed the Bundy case, obviously. I watched all the documentaries, and he was at the end. We've all watched the Ted Bundy tapes, right, on Netflix, where the guy is trying to get him to confess to things and more things and what have you. And with these guys, I mean, they're psychopaths. Like you don't know what angle they're taking. For whatever reason, maybe they like control, so they're not going to give up everything. Anybody that could kill. But you would think that
the narcissist egotism in him would want to take credit for more, like, because some said that Bundy was bragging about his kills were in the hundreds range just to brag, but never gave up any numbers, and only gave up like 30 names, but yet would keep hinting that his numbers are so enormous, which they thought was just him being a braggart trying to take credit for shit because he wanted to puff up his numbers. So,
well, Sorry, go ahead, DA.
Well, it was one of the morbid questions I want to ask. You said something about Bundy was asked about something that he didn't give up, and they found a body that he hadn't given up the name on. This is the morbid question. So Bundy officially confessed to 30 murders. Do you think, morbid question, that you would have vivid recall of every murder that you've done, or at some point do they all just kind of blend together and you start forgetting, oh yeah, there was that one that I did one weekend when I was out of town, and I guess I forgot about that one. Like, is it something you think is so burned into the memory that these killers, no matter what their number is, remembers every single one with detail, or is it possible that you kill so many that it starts to slip their mind?
I would think that he would know, even like, for example, he wasn't 80 years old when he was put to death, right?
Right.
He was still relatively young. He was young,
Right.
basically, right? So I would think at the very least he would be like, well, I can't remember exact details, but there was this one, it was here, and then there was some other ones, it was somewhere in this area, in this state, in this area. You might not remember all the details, but one of the things about these serial killers is that when they've dug deep, they can find connections to things when they were young, right? So like a neighbor's kid that disappeared, or things of that nature near where they lived. And there was speculation for a long time about what happened when Bundy was younger, right? When he was still in this Seattle area, in the Washington area, and he was younger.
Yeah.
Because there a lot of times they're focusing on the more recent stuff, and maybe the old cold cases from way back, they don't think about it like, oh well, he was only 14 or 15 at the time, so they don't dig into it. But I would argue that serial killers probably started younger.
Right.
I really believe that. And for a lot of them, it's ritualistic. So that's
Right.
why they keep little things from the victims, and they make shrines, and they, that type of a thing. And so I would think that I would bet if Othram Labs ever wants to, really make a name for themselves, go back and look at the areas where these serial killers grew up, and dig, and not just Othram Labs, but people like real hardcore investigators. You want to start connecting dots. I bet they would find connections to crimes when then these killers were like teenagers.
Right. Yeah, it's an interesting thing. Like, I mean, it always makes you wonder if they would have vivid recall of the memories. Like, some can argue, like, well, I don't want to go there, but I mean, there's other things that are very memorable to us, and we don't remember all the details and all the times and all the things. So, like, would they remember the kills? But you think, again, I'm just trying to say, like, if one slipped his mind, would that be normal for them to be like, oh yeah, I forgot about that one, or would you?
Yeah, if you killed over 100 people, I'm sure that maybe details would slip your mind, but I bet that you could probably at least say, oh well, when I was traveling, and when I was 18 and I was in in Washington, there was this one, but I can't really remember the details. It was in this area. I mean, I would think they would remember at least a general thing. Maybe you're right, maybe not all of them, because who knows how that kind of mind works. But they're notorious. Psychopaths are notorious for being really good at holding up a front, and they're masterful at that. I mean, Bundy was a master at that. All the jail guards liked him, and he was all the people that he met, that he had worked with and stuff. But here's an interesting thing, and I think we've talked about it before, but in this particular case, when I was doing some reading about Bundy and things like that years ago, they would say, it would come up that the guys that he worked with didn't like him and didn't trust him, but the women
Yeah.
did. And it was the
Mm-hmm.
idea was raised by, this was like a forensic, it was a psychiatrist actually
Yeah.
who interviewed serial killers, said that it's a fairly common thing that men sense something about
Uh,
these
the
type of
predator.
people,
Yeah. Yeah.
and women are not as good at picking up on it. So a lot of times you'll find these guys, they don't have a lot of male friends. They have a lot of female friends.
Yeah. Huh. Well, that's
Yeah.
disturbing.
Yeah.
I've
That's where sometimes your dog can help.
yeah.
Because sometimes dogs pick up on stuff quicker than humans do. So,
I mean, have
but
you guys ever noticed? I've always had really keen instincts with people. I don't know if it comes from like originally growing up in Brooklyn and not in, some rough areas, being in a lot of areas where you gotta watch your back. You develop that. But like there's people that I meet that they are friendly, and they'll talk to people, and I'll notice them talking to women like at the gym and stuff, and I just get a weird vibe from them. I'm
Yeah.
just like whenever I see men that don't really talk to dudes, they just only talk to women. Now I
Yeah.
get it. If you're trying to get a piece, you're flirting, whatever, you're talking to women, I get it. But there's a kind of a vibe that some dudes give off
yeah,
that, you
yeah.
know what I'm saying? It's just
There's like a scuzzy vibe, like paying you too much attention.
right. And
A
they're
little
like
flirt
too
is okay,
friendly.
but
Like
Yeah.
I have four sisters, right? So I grew up like having to watch dudes like hit on my sisters and stuff, and it's just funny because it's so obvious to other dudes, but like that a dude's a creep, but they can be charming, and a lot of women will fall for it.
Yeah. Yeah, I would have to say I've met a person or two in my life that the best I can say is I wouldn't be surprised, despite the fact that I have no proof whatsoever, if I were to find out someday that they were a serial killer. You'd be like, yeah, I kind of saw that. Like I have nothing to go on whatsoever other than just that vibe, that feeling like there's something off about this person, and I wouldn't be
I
surprised if
also
they have a
think
deep secret.
I also think the age and experience has something to do with it. I think that's
Yeah,
why a lot of your serial killers pick on younger women who are not as experienced with some of that, even if they were a sex worker or something. I think there is still a little bit of uh, naivete there a little bit. Someone like me, at the age that I am, I'd be like, dude, get away from me. First of all, I don't, I
yeah,
don't swing that way. But secondly of all, no, just get away.
Like
yeah,
I
But
would like, okay, you see, you see dudes, I've been playing in bars for decades. So I'm
hmm
playing, I see everything unfolding, right?
oh
yeah,
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
yeah,
And I've been in over the years playing in bands and stuff. You're in a bar, it's packed. You see the dudes working. You see everything, right? Because you can scan the
hmm
room and you see who's working what angle.
oh yeah,
Look, I have no problem with a dude that's just plainly trying to get some. And right, that's what we're here on Earth for. None of us would exist if that wasn't the case.
That's
None of
what
us
we're
would be
here on
here
a.
if dudes were not doing that. But it's when they try to be too friendly.
Yeah,
yes,
It just does something to me. The radar goes off. I'm just
yeah,
like, there's like whenever there's a sneakiness about it,
hmm
it just, oh God, I hate
yeah.
that. It's
Well,
just
and that's why whenever I was a DJ, I used to DJ karaoke and weddings and whatnot. And if the same guy kept trying to leave a drink for me, I was like,
yeah,
no. And I got to a point where at the very beginning of my set, I would just say, "Thank you for your consideration, but I do not accept gifts from patrons."
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
so that they didn't keep lining up drinks on my speakers.
Yeah,
Right.
right. Yeah, and you
Yeah.
got, and then with the whole, roofie thing that's became like ubiquitous, and
Yeah.
it's like you hear all these stories. Like I would try to tell like girlfriends and stuff like, don't be so trusting.
Yeah.
It's like,
Mm-mm.
I get it. You want to be friendly, you want to be, but that doesn't mean you don't talk to people. It doesn't mean you just be an asshole to people. But
No.
some people are more concerned with being nice, and
Yep.
that can get you into trouble. And I've had to look, I've been in fist fights because of my sisters, right? Having to
Yeah.
like
Hmm.
step in, right? And I'm the nice guy of the males in my family. Some of my older brothers you were at risk for losing your life. So
Yeah.
I was, but I would see it all. And it's like, it's the creepiness that I guess you develop. I don't know if it's men are more attuned to it, or if it's just some people are more attuned to it, but it's just, I see it so much. My God, I see it so much.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's funny.
One lady
Never.
I knew, she actually she had been roofied one time, and since then she usually brought her own like a water bottle or whatever, like the Stanley cups or whatever, and that's what she had the bartender fill for her, and therefore it had a lid, and nobody could get in the drink but her without her knowing it.
Well,
So
it's funny
that
because
was how,
Stephen Wolf talks a bit about being careful of the drinks, but when I was going to, went to bar, well, first of all, I hate the fucking bar scene. I hate it. I got my own
yeah,
emotional fucking issues with the bar scene, but I knew a couple of females that bragged about, getting all prettied up because they can spend all night long for free and never have to buy a drink because guys will just buy them drinks
sure,
all night long. And I'm thinking to myself, you are putting yourself at such risk because any one of those drinks can be a predator who's, slips you something, and then we brag about it. Hey, I got to go drinking all night long for free because guys will just buy me drinks all night long. And I'm like, man, you
yeah,
are rolling the dice. Good thing you don't have a Bundy living in our area, or maybe we do. I don't know.
yeah, yep.
But yeah. Crazy. Well, how did we digress on serial killers, bar hopping, and all that shit? Like that went off
Hey,
the rails.
Hey, it's
because
true
a lot of
crime.
times
It's true crime
It
related.
is true crime. It is true crime.
I mean,
Yeah.
how many stories have you heard? All right, the Austin case. I dug into that. Someone is in a bar. They didn't even drink that much, and then within no time at all, they're completely sloppy drunk, and they
Right.
wander off. That was one
Right.
of the big stories. This guy and his friend went to a bar, went in, and they were like drink for drink, and they were bigger guys, right? They drank together regularly. And the guy said, 1 minute, my buddies were having a couple of drinks, he's fine, and then he's completely out of it, and he just wanders off, and then he's found dead. So
Yeah.
that case, man, that's a fucking crazy
It
one.
reminds me of an old cold case that my inspiration for doing what I'm doing now is probably Chris Lambert in Your Own Backyard in the Kristen Smart case. And Kristen Smart was one of those girls. She went to a party, hardly had a drink at all, and was sloppy drunk instantly, just wiped out. And then a guy offers to help her back to her dorm room, and she's murdered. And he had roofied her. He had been roofing girls on a regular basis, and he'd been practicing it and getting better at his roofing girls. And that case, Paul Flores was eventually convicted after 20 something years of an unsolved case. But that's what happened. It was much like you said. She goes to a party, she just has a couple drinks, shouldn't have been it, and she was completely wasted. And then he helps her home, and that's the last anybody ever sees of her.
Well,
Yeah.
the whole roofie thing started in South Florida. I lived in South Florida when I was in my 20s, and I had friends that were lifeguards down there, and that's how I ended up down there. And I was basically just I was new to the area. I'd never lived in South Florida, and I would hang out with this group of guys, and they were like, "Oh, we're gonna get some roofies," and this is a long time ago. This is like mid-90s, and I'm like, "Roofies? What the hell is that?" And this is way, way before anybody even knew what hypnol was, but they called them roofies. And I'm like, what the hell is roofies? And he's like, oh, they're just like sedatives. You take them when you're drinking, and it like it gives you a buzz. So I'm like, oh, okay. I didn't think anything of it. I'd never heard of it. I didn't know what they were talking about. And then we went out we were gonna go out one night, and we were sitting around at the house drinking, and they had roofies, and I took one. And I had maybe 2 beers at that point.
You roofied yourself.
Yeah, well, they were taking them
Right,
People took roofies recreationally way before it became like the date rape drug.
The date rape drug.
I'm telling you, this is literally where it started in South Florida. And so I was like, oh, cool. Everybody's doing them. But the one thing about hypnol, you develop tolerance to it really, really fast. Like literally, if you do it a few times, like these guys would do 3 or 4 of them and drink beers all night.
Wow.
And not pass out. I did one of them and had like 3 beers, and I was asleep on the couch.
Yeah.
It's because your body, if you're not used to them, and I was like, why the hell do you guys want to do that? Like, and go out? But it was a thing. And that was it. No one had that I know of anywhere else in the country ever heard about roofies. And then it blew up as this like date rape drug. And it's dangerous, man. You got to be careful in bars because shit.
Yeah.
Like, you got to go with a crew. To the ladies out there, if you go to a bar with your girlfriends, at the very least, make sure there's people that are regulars at that bar or the bartenders that over time.
Mm-hmm.
So they're just through experience, they're not shady. Because what happens is, if you're not a familiar face in a bar, the shady people know who's who. They pay attention because they don't want it to be anything happening with other people keeping an eye on what's going on.
Well, now keep in mind, it's not just with the girls right now. Look at all the young college guys that have gone missing. I mean, Austin alone, and then also Nashville. I mean, there's tons of places where young college age guys, good looking guys, are going missing. They're winding up, murdered one way or another, or but they always want to cover that up and say, oh, they accidentally drowned.
Yeah, right. I think part of the reason is
go with a crew no matter what sex you are.
Right. I mean, it can happen to anybody, but the reality is dudes don't look out for other dudes the way they look out for women. Right. When you're with your boys, I'm never thinking my buddy's going to get roofied. Right. Because you wouldn't think it would happen. So you may not be paying as good of attention.
Well, you should be.
And it can happen. Whereas if you have guy friends or a brother or the bar, like the place that I play all the time, the people that work there and the regulars treat the regular girls that hang out there like sisters. Like if somebody messed with one of those girls that we all know, there'd be a problem. Like
just real quick,
not let that happen.
Real quick, let's make room for 1-1. He's backstage and has been for a while. I've been waiting for a break in the conversation, but we've been going pretty heavy. Hey. So is now a good time to bring him up, or do we want to?
Yeah.
Okay, let's bring him up. 1-1, what's going on?
Hello.
Hi.
Howdy.
Are you in a car?
I am in a car.
Nice.
Of course. Always on the go.
At least you're not in a shower.
Yeah.
Great conversation on roofies. You can't talk about roofies without mentioning Bill Cosby.
Right. I know. I know.
He was the roofie king before roofies existed.
I know.
I was trying to find that I was trying to find that meme, you know, like you're in trouble if the last thing you see is this, like the blurry image of Bill Cosby waving at you.
Yeah. Well, that's that you hear all these stories that have come out over the years. It's these people that are celebrities, like everybody knows the guy, the British guy, Jimmy Savile, the guy who was like the TV star in Britain, who was friends with the royal family, who was like a serial sexual offender for many, many years. And it's like people have this, they're in a position of, they're either famous or they have some power or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, at one point, I mean, there in the 80s, I mean, if you wanted to, you know, there's certain stars, you know, this is like the whole thing with P. Diddy, right? And the music thing. I mean, in the 80s,
Right.
there, if you were anyway, if you wanted to make it in the, you know, in TV land, I mean, if you could get Bill Cosby on your side, I mean, he had a he had a big, you know, big say in many people. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
it, but along there with what JJ's saying there with the bars, a big, you know, a big thing. I mean, there's been numerous cases that have happened, right? You know, from spring break and these vacations that people go on. You know, you go to some of these bars and some of these places, and you know, you're a stranger there. Some of these, you know, these derelicts are they're looking for, you know, whatever you want to call it, prime meat or prime, you know, they take full advantage, you know.
Sure. Oh yeah.
I know I forget the girl's name now. I know, but that prime example from what was it, Aruba, right? With the girl,
Yeah.
the girl that went missing, and then like the guy that they thought was involved with it. His father was like involved with, like, he had like a lot of money, and he was involved with the government.
Yeah.
there,
Natalie
whatever.
Holloway.
Yeah. Yep.
Natalie Holloway.
And the
Yep.
guy was Joran Vandersloot. That was the
Yeah, Vandersloot.
and like he got away for a while. He got away with it for a while, and then they eventually
Yeah,
got him on
okay.
another crime, right? I think
Yeah.
he got convicted on another murder.
People were asking what Jello pudding pops were, so I put it on the screen.
Yeah, they were good.
Oh.
Everybody's like, "Oh my god, they were divine."
They were good.
The pudding pops, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's like like the Jimmy Savile thing and the Bill Cosby thing. It's like a lot of times these people, they're connected, and
Yeah.
they're able, like there was, you know, I just remember listening to other comedians talk, and they would say like it was a known thing among the comedy world that Cosby was a creeper and was doing shady stuff. It was an open secret.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and you know, likewise, it was an open secret, I think, in Hollywood about P. Diddy's parties and what was happening at those parties too. Like, there's a lot of people that cover up for Hollywood stars when they all know kind of what's up with that thing. But
Yeah.
not to sidetrack on P. Diddy, but yeah.
Yeah, because these guys have, you know, they have so much power.
Right.
You know, I mean, P. Diddy he's involved in, you know, if you wanted to make, I mean, he had connections to movies, to all kinds of crazy things.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, and that's part of the thing is like you have we could tie this to any number of cases when you have somebody that's in a position of some authority that tend to not be questioned, and people are sometimes afraid to come out because of the power that they have or the fame that they have, or they
Mm-hmm.
come out and they're not believed, you know. And
Yeah.
so look at scenarios in which people in positions of power, God, do we need to even explain it with what's been going on and the national global headlines? People
Yeah.
in positions of power protect each other.
Yeah.
Right. If you're
Yeah.
wealthy and you're connected to the power structure, you're protected in most cases. And it's a sad but
Yeah.
unfortunate reality that we have to deal with, is that people in positions of power abuse their power.
Yeah.
I don't
Yep.
know a single situation where you don't find out shit about somebody in power, about after they die, about fuckery they were involved with.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the
Yeah.
rules aren't, the rules are meant for others, not for them. I mean, I could just real quick. I mean, I'm a huge wrestling fan. Whatever. Yeah, I know fake wrestling, WWE, WWF stuff, and look at all the stuff that has come out about Vince McMahon.
Yeah.
I mean,
Oh yeah. Yeah. Right.
crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, guys, if most people knew about some of the shit Led Zeppelin did when they were at their height, but it was a different time where
Yeah,
it was kind of accepted behavior for rock stars. And
right.
and that list, I'm sure, is a very long one. That's a whole other thing, but it's just like people that are famous and powerful, they can get away with a lot. And one of the realities is a lot of people want to be close to people like that, and they
Yeah.
would put themselves in really bad situations to be around these types of people. I mean, you know,
Yeah,
it's
and then some of the stuff, like you said, like some, it doesn't make it okay, but you know, like for instance, like Bill, people like, oh, but this girl or whatever woman, you know, went back to Bill Cosby's place after or whatever, like she didn't, she knew he was gonna wanna something or
Right.
whatever. That may be true to an extent, but it's still not okay for. It
Right.
still doesn't make it right.
Right. I mean,
So
yeah, and right. I was going to digress on that before, but you're right. Like a lot of it comes into, it's easy to victim shame on that. Like, well, she wanted to be near a star. She wanted
yeah,
to go back to his apartment. What did she think was going to happen? So therefore, somehow that excuses them roofing
Yeah.
and doing so because,
No.
well, what did she think was going to happen? Well, maybe not
Yeah.
rape. Like, I don't know.
right,
Maybe not
Right.
right, exactly,
Right.
exactly.
I
And then you
mean,
bring up, some of the stuff that you're talking about, JD, too, about power and whatever. I mean, I know that I know they changed some of the rules and laws, and I would say there's probably still like some shady stuff that goes on. Maybe not to the extent, but the movie industry. I know, right? Corey Haim, right? He wrote
Yeah.
had like a
Right.
book and whatever.
Yeah.
Look what they used to do. Look at like from
Corey Feldman. Sure.
years ago, like all the stuff
Feldman. Yeah.
the stuff that went on with childhood actors and actresses, the stuff that they were,
Yeah.
that they were made to do.
yeah, I mean, and
Yep.
and like if you have stage parents that are allowing you that much free reign because they like the fact that their kid is a TV star or a movie star or whatever. All the things that have come out about Hollywood, you guys
Yeah,
know Candace did a whole series on the book
yeah,
Hollywood Babylon. I mean, it's a dark place. I lived in LA for 1 year, just 1 year, and it was one of the shadiest places I've ever been, man. It's like people would be really friendly and like your best buddy to your face. But if you didn't have anything that you could do for them, they really couldn't care less about you. Clearly it was the most superficial and full of shit place I've ever lived. And you know, Hollywood is a dark environment. The industry is riddled
Yeah.
with dark shit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow, what a topic we've gotten onto. It's like
Yeah, it's deep stuff. I know.
and it's funny too, like those kind of dark things happen to young boys too. Like Justin Bieber was I mean, if you watch some of the stuff that people did to Bieber when he was a young boy and was in way over his head and being sexualized when he was just a young boy, like you always think of it as being a female's problem, but some of those young male actors went through a lot of growing up.
Fucking crazy. Yeah,
we just don't hear about it.
Bieber and Usher. Usher was another
Usher,
guy.
Yep.
And the shit isn't over. I know P. Diddy kind of escaped some of the, I guess, the main charges or whatever, but he's got like over 100 civil lawsuits against him. So
yeah,
which they'll settle. You know, none of them will go to court. You know, like the thing is with these powerful people, and I always say it, if you make a lot of money for other people, they're going to keep you around and do whatever they can. Right. So you're still able to make them money. And that's the reality of the entertainment business across the board. If you are a cash cow for an industry, it's not just that industry. It's all the investment bankers, you know, the private equity firms that invest in these companies. You have a very powerful, you know, network and a powerful machine behind you. That's why they always get a slap on the wrist.
Yeah, of course.
Always.
And then because they have, you know, they basically, you know, print their own money. Like they have so much money, some of these guys. So of course they're able to get, you know, the top super lawyer of you know, in whatever, you know, and not, you know, and then you watch some of these guys and some of these stuff that have charges brought against them, and you know, they're allowed to, you know, they're innocent until proven guilty, right? But they'll have like a whole, you know, they'll have like a whole team, you know, they'll have like, you know, 6 or 7 like top all-star lawyers in the field, where they like go into court, like even the judge is like, you know, in awe sometimes of some of these like teams that are put together.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Well, and that also ties into your publishing industry. Look how many authors have movie deals and things like that. So, I mean, the web goes far and wide out from that industry between music and movies and writers, and you know, so it's everywhere, unfortunately.
Well, it's like we always say, follow the money. You know, the Idaho 4 case, if you want to transition. The Idaho 4 case, universities are basically the economy of their area.
Right.
And, you know, is it really that hard to imagine? I mean, I know we've talked about this, but it's come up again recently. People are talking about this online. Like, the university had a lot of sway over the MPD. Undoubtedly, they were involved in whatever task forces were going on in that area. And it's just, it's like, it's interesting to me that people, when they label things a conspiracy, that's a crazy conspiracy theory. To me, that smells of somebody who doesn't understand the way power and money really work. Because a big
they don't care. Right? Yeah, you're right. They don't care. They don't care about solving. They don't could care less about solving crime. They could care less. Like some girl or guy, whatever, gets raped or whatever, they could care less. That contract gives them full narrative control, and they can control the story, and that's what it's all about.
Yeah, and you notice how they've been in the background. The university has been very effective in keeping themselves in the background. And just like with Austin, now UT Austin is probably 10 times the size of University of Idaho. It's a huge university,
Yeah.
a massive moneymaker, because you got the Longhorns, you got, it's a huge football program and a great academic school. UT Austin is a major research university. So the amount of money that flows through that school, they are not going to let it get out that there's a serial killer operating in right down the street from the college, from the massive university. So it's like, this is why DA has said it too in different regards, but look at what they're not talking about. Look at who's not being brought into the spotlight and being looked at. There hasn't been much digging into the university beyond the coach thing, right? And so it's always, in my opinion, in this type of a situation, any case that there's big money attached to, look at what they're not talking about.
Right. Well, they would be biting the hand that feeds them.
Yeah.
I mean, they're getting a huge kickback from the university in order for them through that contract, in order for them to be, first at the table, in order to hear all the details of police investigations and anything going on with any of the crimes with related to university students. So they to try to drag the university down or attribute crimes to the make it their fault at all. That's a whole other issue.
Yeah, look, guys, just for the record, I'm not suicidal. I just want everybody to know.
Just want to get that out there.
None of us
now.
are.
I just want everybody to
None of us are.
I'm very happy. I'm very healthy. I'm not suicidal.
Shit happens, man. Shit happens. You never know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I have a problem sometimes where like I'll call out the worst people that I should be calling out.
Yeah.
And like I forget sometimes. I probably shouldn't be doing that.
I
But
know.
I can't help myself, but it's just,
on a regular basis, I do that when I'm making long form videos, hinting, even suggesting that somebody might be really bad killer that would kill somebody in a heartbeat. I'm like, what am I doing poking the fucking bear? Like, hey, this guy would kill somebody in a heartbeat if you thought you pissed him off, and I'm going to piss him off. Like, how smart am I?
All right. So along those lines, does anybody? It was kind of viral online. If you are on X and whatever, see the video of the guy on Joe Rogan who guessed Joe Rogan's PIN number for his bank card. And
No.
and people were suggesting that he was a spy for a certain foreign entity.
Okay.
That you wouldn't want someone as big as Joe Rogan saying not nice things about.
Right.
And by the way, that guy is originally from that country, so there is foundation to it. But that was kind of blowing up on.
I appreciate you holding back on the country. I appreciate that. You're very diplomatic about that. I like that.
Well, I mean, I don't want to get political,
Right.
I'm trying to, just point like, but with someone like Joe Rogan, for example, anybody who's watched his show. Right when he started, Joe Rogan was famous before he started his podcast, right? Everybody knows that. He's been famous for a long time.
Yeah.
But if you look at what happened when Joe's podcast started to become like the biggest podcast around, all of a sudden, all these CIA, quote unquote, former CIA guys start popping up on his show.
Yeah.
Patrick Bet David's podcast. As soon as he gets to a really big level, all these former CIA guys start popping up on his podcast. And this is across the board. It goes for, there's a lot of others too.
Yeah.
If you guys follow that stuff, you'll know the people I'm talking about. So once you reach I think you're safe for now, DA, because you have to get to a certain level where when you have a really wide reach, they're watching you. Believe me, they have got their eyes on anybody that's blowing up. And they usually get to people quickly, and they suss out who they can co-opt and pay off and who they can't. Now, Joe, nobody had to do that because he had the biggest podcast in the world and he was making ungodly amounts of money, right? So he's not going to be his deal with Spotify. Was it $60 million? Hey, we're going to pay you some money to not talk about this and talk about that. So you got to get somebody on their way up. In my opinion, just as speculation, I'm not suicidal.
And that's why I will always self-publish. Like I'm saying, deals are made with publishers, and for authors, and it's the same thing. It would take some serious buku bucks for me to ever go with a publishing house, for many, many reasons, but that's just one of them. So that's, because I've heard some horror stories from some of my author friends who are best-selling.
It's funny, like this feels like not a true crime show because all of a sudden I'm digressing. You're making me think of an author that I used to get into. JJ might even understand. I don't know if he's big into conspiracy stuff, but Graham Hancock was a great researcher and archaeologist kind of guy, and he would say, "Look, as an independent, that's the way you want to be, because if you are paid for your research, then they shape your research." And so
that's
the universities and stuff who pay for the research are always going to tell the version of history that they have bought into and sold and pay for. And so as an independent, he's like, I'm not going to, be paid for where I have to tell the story that they want me to tell because their dollars are behind it and they want the narrative that doesn't shake their version of history.
Because when you hand over those copyrights to a publisher, any IP that you create, any research, rough drafts, notes, outlines, it all belongs to them. You can't take that and make any derivative work. Without buying back your own copyright. So, and it's the same way for script writers. Okay, you're going to tie this to the entertainment industry. It's the same way with script writers. That intellectual property is no longer theirs.
And anybody who puts out content, I'm suspicious of people that write about the power structure, because I've read a lot of those books, and you will always see the narrative shaping. They will report and they'll have inside sources. And I could name several writers that fall into this category. They'll have inside sources, and then they tend to steer. They pull you in with. They'll tell you some salacious things, and then they steer away from other things. And I've learned to notice that both with podcasters, news people, and authors. And then you do a little digging. You find out where they went to school, and you'll often, or who their family is. And you'll often find with those people, they have connections to the intelligence community, or they went to one of those small private colleges that the intelligence community loves to pluck people from. Or Ivy League schools. But there are a few smaller colleges that are considered they're like Ivy League, but they're not they're small private colleges. And I always look for that, because you'll find a lot of that seems to be a common thread with a lot of these authors. And now, the one thing I will say about Joe Rogan, like him or not, he's a self-made man. He did not come from money. He literally succeeded at everything he ever did on his own. He didn't have connections in the entertainment industry. He was a
Yeah.
champion martial artist. Then he got into stand-up comedy. And he's a good-looking dude and whatever. He's confident. But he didn't come from money or a connected family. Yeah, I agree, Canny Mag. There's no such thing
Yep.
as a former CIA person. That's why I always
No.
put former in quotes when
Yeah.
I say
Right.
Yeah.
former CIA. That's a life job. You
Right.
don't get to.
Yeah.
You're always under their thumb.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, I brought up Joe Rogan just because he's the king. And just for the record, Candace is not bigger than Joe Rogan. You keep
No.
hearing that. She's not.
No. No.
They're giving these false metrics because it's a good narrative. Oh, Candace is the biggest podcast in the world, or Amy Poehler's. No, Joe Rogan has been and still is the biggest podcast in the world. It's not even close. But they like to, shift the narrative because Joe's, whatever. But, I am sus of. I was watching the chat. People were mentioning some people they're sus of, and I am too. Well, whenever these shows start having all these former CIA people on, I'm just like, yeah, you're not former CIA. That's bullshit.
Yeah.
I got on a side note. Did you guys get to see the new video, or well, not really video, the audio that Connor dropped?
No, another one of the Sigma Chi guys, or was it?
Yeah, it's another one of the Sigma Chi guys, and
What's
very super interesting. Again, like kind of hits most of the stuff that you were, from your video, Lee, that you were kind of hitting at. I mean, they were going hard at this guy. They were, they really were asking about Ethan and questions about the drugs and everything. So
Yeah,
I heard some of it. But it's crazy. DA, you talked about this. How heavy they were talking about the drug angle, and not only talking about the drug angle, alluding to money, and did he have money all of a sudden, or did you notice he had a lot of money? So they were looking at all this stuff.
yeah,
and the question is, how was that stuff brushed away so quickly?
yeah.
And why?
Right.
Why? What is it? That's the question. Why?
alumni?
Yeah, alumni and
right. The brotherhood, right?
the school.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
Sure.
mean, even
That's what I mean.
The officer doing the interview was himself a frat brother,
Sigma Chi.
and referred to it as if it's us. We're brothers. Like, I'm interviewing him, but we're brothers. Hey, we're in the same fraternity. I went to school here. I know what the story is. I know what the rub is.
Yeah.
Real quick, Janae had posted a nice word of encouragement, talking about how their big channels cover multiple stories. It's one of the things we talk about that a lot. Like, we don't want to be just an Idaho 4 channel, but the Idaho 4 only channels grow much faster. But Janae, I think I appreciate that very much. You're right. Here's the thing, and I'm not comparing myself because I don't have that kind of gift, but that's Joe Rogan's kind of bread and butter. He could talk to fucking anybody. He can talk to you about UFC fighting. He can talk to Graham Hancock about whether aliens visited the planet. He could talk to everyone, and it's entertaining. It doesn't even matter what the subject matter is. He's just good at bringing out the best in other people. And there's not one size fits all on these kind of things. It is encouraging to hope that someday that we'll grow while doing it our way. I'll do it my way.
Well, I hope to talk. I hope to talk shit about a lot of different things, and it probably won't be true crime, so you guys might not dig it, but
people keep asking tonight, Joe. I pinned something. They keep asking, JJ's so serious. I love what he talks about. When does his fucking show launch? I'm like,
it's coming.
They're like, when is he coming up with his own show?
I'm gonna lose half my subscribers when you launch your show. They'll be like, fuck that guy, I'm going over to JJ.
No, if you want to hear me talk about other different types of things, I'm not really I've said it. I'm not really a true crime creator
guy.
type guy.
Yeah. Yeah.
I followed it, but I always followed it from like the more the profiling angle because I got really into profiling and
Yeah.
I studied forensic psychology and then I started to get into the bigger picture stuff. But I promise you, it's coming.
Yeah, I can't wait to hear about I know you're going to cover it. I don't know if it's going to be in your first show, but I can't wait till you cover the weather stuff.
Oh, I
yeah.
have
that's going to be cool.
tons of episodes planned because specific things.
Yeah.
The first episode is just going to be like an introduction, talk about my ideas about big picture things, and I will talk about some big things, some current things happening. But that's just going to set the stage for when I get into I'll talk about specific things and I'll go off on tangents because that's what I do. But I have 3 long weekends coming up for this reason, so I can get other stuff done and record some videos. It's going to take me practice. I'm going to have to do a few practice episodes to get my outline down.
You've had lots of practice on our show. You're already a camera guy.
All you got to do is turn the camera on and start talking, dude. You're natural. You're gonna be different.
I appreciate
don't wait
it. I
for
appreciate
perfection.
it. No,
Don't
I'm not
wait
worried
for
about perfection. I have to have other subject matter outlined because once I start, I have to keep going.
Right.
So
right.
I have years worth of notes that I've been trying to consolidate, and it's hard because I work, I'm busy. It's a lot of work. Do you guys that do this shit full time, man? It's a lot of work to try to do content because you have to do research, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Like
if you're going to be credible, yes, you do.
Yes, I can't just talk shit and be like, no, I never read a book. I'm just talking shit.
Right.
Like I have to at least have foundational research. I don't have to be an expert on everything, but I have to have foundational research. But I'm gonna do. I'll just one knows. I'm gonna do multiple episodes about geoengineering and that type of stuff. And I'm going to try to make it palatable for people so they understand what's actually going on.
JP Swanson's asks a great question. Idaho 4 question. What is the one piece of the puzzle that you need that will solve the puzzle?
A whistleblower.
Yeah.
Cyray.
Yeah. Cyray. There you go.
Cyray.
That's a big one.
For me, it's
Cyray being unable to be ungagged so that he can tell the cell phone data information, and that might change.
Well, is the problem though? But the problem though with the Cyray, the Cyray thing will be a bombshell. But that may only tell us that Koberger didn't do it, but that's not going to tell us what actually happened.
But if he did that, it changes everything. Sorry, Ron.
Right, it changes everything.
Yeah.
So that they start looking at the actual people.
Yeah.
Now here's a question about Cyray. Something I've thought about because I'm suspicious of everything. Is it possible that Cyray was a red herring and he was there to be like, he's off in the corner, there's the guy, he knows the timing advance stuff's going to prove this, that, or the other, and then they don't allow him to be in there, so that keeps people, it's like a distraction method. Well, there's this other information that we don't know about, and we already know he's always done his work for the prosecution.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So is it possible that he's controlled opposition?
I don't feel so. I don't think so. I really don't feel so. I mean, I get what you're saying, but I don't feel so. Unfortunately, the biggest concern I have with Cyray is that, and I've said it before, and I'll say it again, is that we may be overselling what Cyray was going to do. Cyray really, people think Cyray is going to say, and there's insiders who say that's what he's going to say, that Koberger couldn't have been in Moscow. Like, I know he wasn't in Moscow, but technically all Cyray was saying was, you are lying about the advanced timing records, and I know you are because I know how it works and I can prove it. He wasn't even saying whether Koberger was there or not. All he was saying was, what you're telling the defense is a lie, and I know it's a lie, and I can prove it. And Hitler said, you're a conspiracy theorist, we don't need to hear from you. He didn't necessarily say he was going to exonerate Koberger. He just said, you couldn't have got the information that you say you've got the way you got it. So at the end of the day, will it be a know-nothing burger? That all he's really going to do is say, they lied about how they got the information. They did get the information illegally, but they still got the right guy. Like, that would be the bombshell that would hurt everybody, right? People who are thinking that Cyrus is going to overturn this thing. What if he's just to say, well, they still got the right guy, but they did it illegally? But, you know,
I will respectfully disagree with you, just based on the fact that Ann Taylor was not going to continue having him be an expert for her if that was the case, because she knew exactly what he was going to say. She knew exactly what information he had. She would have to. So therefore, she was not going to bring him into court via television or over the internet or any which way.
To say
she was
guilty, right?
No, that's it's a great point. You're right. Ann Taylor wouldn't have pushed it as far as she did if all he was going to do was just say, oh, well, they lied about how they got. Like, you're right. She probably wouldn't have pushed it that far if that was all he was going to do. So
here's the question that I have about that, and I'll tie it in with something else. The FBI was involved with this case, correct? We all know this.
Yep.
Why would the FBI allow Moscow to not include potential exculpatory evidence if they really wanted to find who was guilty? Okay, so my theory, and you guys all know it, is that I believe in part and pretty strongly that Brian Koberger was working with or for the feds, and he was probably working with them, was potentially brought to WSU as part of a funding situation because of his background, because he had done some work with cloud-based forensics. Now, if my theory is correct, it would support that Cy had information, but he was told to stand down, and higher powers told MPD to stand down because we need this guy, because we need to obscure other things that were going on. Like, for example, one of our CIs was, or more than one, was killed because of being involved with our program. Right? They wouldn't want that to come out. And if Koberger gets, if Koberger gets exonerated, then that opens the door for, well, who did it? And why? That opens up a whole other can of worms. So Cy is, if the feds are talking to him and saying, you're going to jeopardize our bigger picture operation, and the school, who was probably working with the feds with this these task forces that were going on, because it was targeting the areas around the schools. So what I'm saying is that I'm not saying Cy is a bad guy and he's doing nefarious things. What I'm saying is, when the feds come to you, if you're a guy who's worked in law enforcement, that's the high authority right there. So I'm still going to say that I think the biggest bombshell that could occur in this case, whether it will or not, it's a whole other story, would be a whistleblower coming forward at some point in time.
I mean, I can't argue with that. I mean, a whistleblower obviously would break this wide open. A Cy saying that Koberger couldn't have been in Moscow would blow this thing wide open. Even potentially a Frank's hearing violation in which something comes out like, suspect vehicle 1 had fog lights and Koberger's car didn't, or vice versa. Something like that could do something. So there could be several ways to have a bombshell rechanging the entire conversation. But we'll see. I mean, every day that ticks away, you think to yourself, well, where is this? Where, we keep hearing that post-conviction relief is going to be filed by Koberger, and still here we are, nothing happening. And of course, I said I think Koberger has until August to file post-conviction relief. And if I were in his shoe and didn't feel like I was going to get killed in prison, I would probably wait to the last minute so that your case is as strong as possible before you file. But, not everybody wants to languish in prison when you think you can get out, kind of thing. But I don't know.
La Fugitiva said she wrote to Centurion about BK's case.
Oh, yeah? Centurion is one of the wrongful conviction champions that I think Centurion was the organization that helped write that Framed book.
Yeah,
right?
Framed. Yeah, that's
yeah.
McCloskey was with that. With
McCloskey
and John.
Nice
Grisham.
job. Nice job. Hopefully, I mean, it makes me think that every how many people have already contacted the Innocence Project and whatever. Do these places already know all about it, and are they already looking into it? Have they looked at it and said, oh, that's a no-nothing burger, there's nothing happening there, it's they got it right? Do they really believe in all the quote-unquote conspiracy theorists out here that we're getting called? I don't know.
So someone mentioned Jack D. Oh, sorry, go ahead, Robin.
Yeah, I was just going to say, like the Innocence Project and various places, they also have to pick and choose their cases because they only have so much funding. So that is part of the issue, is that they really are only going to take on cases that they feel can be won fairly,
However,
easily.
think of how many think of this though. How many cases has groups like the Innocence Project or even Centurion, for example, helped fight that nobody even knew about the case? Like nationally or internationally, nobody even heard of these people that they're defending.
True.
So would they want to get on a massive, this is one of the most massive cases there are. So if you get yourself involved in one of the biggest cases ever, it's not like, I mean, they fought hard to get Joe Blow exonerated that nobody fucking even heard of before. So
well, because if there's big power and money involved in a case, it could prohibit them from getting involved.
Right. So maybe because of the size, they're less able to do anything about it.
But here's the thing about the Jack D thing, and I've brought this up before. He, based on all forensic investigating, he would be the first logical suspect.
I've said on
many levels, multiple
one,
levels. Right.
First suspect. First suspect. Yeah.
And I think he was first suspect.
Right. But like that would be like, yeah, of course, the jealous ex-boyfriend, jilted.
It's the obvious choice, right?
Right. So if he were guilty, one student killing, I don't even like talking about this, but like, killing 4 people because he flipped out relating to his ex. That, in my opinion, I don't think would facilitate a cover-up, because that happens.
No.
And it's a horrible thing, but it happens, and it wouldn't necessarily be connected to the school in the way that a drug hit would be, or a law enforcement officer being involved somehow.
Yeah. Well, JJ, that's, I mean, since we're going down the rabbit hole, that was my argument. If it was, I realize lots of people are like, I'm so tired of hearing Jack D's name on this, but if it was the jealous ex-boyfriend, and if the catalyst was he found out his ex was sleeping with a police officer, then again, that would explain all of it. It could explain the jealous ex-boyfriend and the police cover-up, because the police don't want it getting out that their officers are banging college girls while on duty, involved, that they're working with. So it would be a huge embarrassment to the police department. It'd be a huge embarrassment to the university, and there could be motive to cover up the why he snapped. If the reason he snapped was he caught her with a cop, kind of thing.
Right. That's a logical thing. But I keep going back to, would the feds be okay with allowing shady cover-ups? Because why would the feds
help cover that up? Right.
And the feds would know that's rule number 1 with federal investigations with homicides, like the jealous ex-boyfriend. Right. So
I mean, and they're a murder. There's stuff that where I am in New York City, I mean, we have murders and shit that are happening, every other day. You don't have the U.S. Marshals don't show up to every murder.
That's the question, though. Like, I want to bring that up again. We talk about the U.S. Marshals. Are we convinced 100% that it was the Marshals there? Because we see the Cowboys show up. It looks like they've got Marshals badges, but then when you compare it to state police, they got a similar badge. So was it state police or was it Marshals? Because a lot of us, I feel like, keep talking about the Marshals being involved.
Yeah.
And other than the images of the Cowboys, who we say those are Marshals, I haven't been able to find paperwork about the Marshals. So I'm curious. I'm just questioning, like, do we know for certain? Am I behind the times and we know for certain it was Marshals, or is it a speculation because we see the Cowboys and we believe the Cowboys are Marshals?
Can we FOIA the Marshals?
Maybe, but again, to JJ's point, when you get up to the federal level like that, they probably give you the big middle finger and say, we're not going to fucking tell you anything about it. It's national security. Like, Marshals are probably protected in there.
What if they gave us something similar to what they did about,
right.
We have the information, but we can't confirm.
We can't talk about
it. Because if they do that much, we know that there's something there with the Marshals.
Good point. And it might be worth doing it. It might be just worth sending out a notice and saying, can you please confirm any involvement at all that the federal Marshals had with this?
I thought that didn't Dylan have an interview with them? Wasn't that alluded to?
Dylan said
Dylan mentioned them.
I thought Dylan was Homeland Security. Dylan was
Homeland. No, you're right. Sorry. It was Homeland Security.
I mean, just think about it. Again, we have to look at how many different things were in play. We know there was a task force in the area, right?
Yeah.
So we know that was going on in the area.
Mm-hmm.
We know, and I tried to find connections to the drug task force, and it was, again, this is Grok AI, and just some preliminary searches saying that the feds were not involved in that task force. So I don't know if it's just being obscured or whatever, but you had that going on. You had very possibly at least one CI in the house, right? You have a pretty obvious cover up going on. I think we would all probably agree on that. And so for all these different things to happen and national security implications, to me, that points to that there's a cover up, and it's because it might be related to what they were investigating in that area.
Sure.
And to me, that's just like the most logical assumption. It goes against the logic of the jealous ex-boyfriend, which is 100% of forensic investigators would be looking at that.
Right.
Under the circumstances, literally 100%.
I wanted to point out this user, Tomboy Charm, says Organized Crime Drug Enforcement Task Force. And you were talking, JJ, about how you looked into and you couldn't find that the feds, the FBI was involved. Here's what I asked, but the answer is very interesting. I asked ChatGPT, not Grok, to see what their answer was. And what I asked was the FBI part of the Organized Crime Drug Enforcement Task Force in Moscow in 2022? They said, yes, FBI is always part of OCD ETF, but there's no evidence that OCD ETF operation was active in Moscow. So they're saying, yes, if it was that particular group, the FBI is always involved in that group, but they said that group wasn't the one that was
but we know the name. But we know the name of the guy who has been involved in FBI drug task force.
Right.
That's O'Neill. And O'Neill, why is O'Neill interviewing? Why is he interviewing different subjects and different people involved in the Idaho? So O'Neill, his history, his whole history has been involved with. He's been a handler for people, and he's the one that's supposedly connected to Farley and all that. But whether Farley is involved or not, O'Neill is involved because we have his name in certain documents.
And we know the FBI was embedded with Moscow police from at least December 5th, every single day with them. Nick Balance from the FBI was working with them. So we know the feds were in there. The question becomes, were the feds in there because they were part of an ongoing drug task force in the area before the murders happened, or did they just get involved when the murders happened? That's the $1 million question. But
yeah.
Right. It just seems to me like whenever you have an entity like a university, and by the way, there's a drug task force in the area and rumors of that house being affiliated with drugs and fraternities being affiliated with certain fraternities, which we heard in these interviews, which they more or less confirmed that which one was known to be involved with drugs. When you have all these things happening together and then a blatant cover-up happens, to me, it's just, that's why everybody's questioning all these things. That is why there's so much digging that people are doing, because people have instincts. We're not stupid. You look at the information, you say, the information they're giving us doesn't make sense, to say nothing of the fact that a lot of it is completely inaccurate, the stuff we've been told. So
yeah, there's a lot of inaccuracies. You're right. Yeah.
So I can't steer away from there being an operation involved, whether the operation was going on, like we've talked about. That house could have been part of that drug task force.
Sure.
Right?
Sure.
Several
Absolutely.
of the houses there.
And hence somebody, or multiple people involved in that house that could have been part of that stuff that was going on. And Kaylee could have just been, because of bad, unfortunate circumstances, she was there. But that would explain to me what would facilitate a cover up, like we've talked about. I know I'm not breaking new ground here. CI's getting killed because of being involved with this operation that they were sponsoring. And that's why, that's one of the reasons why I believe that Kohberger was working for or with the feds, because they had to utilize whatever resources they could to divert the information away from people digging into that aspect of it. And if you find the lone gunman, the loner, the incel, then you could strap a narrative on it and feed it to the public, and the mainstream media is going to jump all over it and push that narrative. But I don't see how they would just frame a guy on such a high profile case that the feds were involved in, because that then could come back to the feds, because they were the ones ultimately that got the information from Othram that they used, right? So the blowback could come back on the feds if it was a frame job. Whereas if he's working for them in some capacity, then to me, these are just the things that, in my opinion, reinforce my theory about him. Why he would go down the road like he's going to fight it and then plead, because guess what? They don't want all this other information to come out in a massively publicized trial, because then what happens is other people who are not crazy conspiracy theorists, true crime nuts, are going to start questioning the shit that comes out at a trial.
Yeah. Sausage Biscuit's point was interesting. I did hear that there was other case numbers involved in cross-referenced with the Idaho 4 case, and that's super interesting. Something we don't talk about on the show much. It's something that I would love to do a deep dive on as well for an upcoming episode. Yeah, I think so. It'd be great. That's bigger. All right, look, let's wrap up the show. We've had a great night tonight. I want to wrap it up. Before we go around the horn, before we start losing everybody and they're realizing we're closing, I want to just tease real quick. Tomorrow, I have this video dropping on the Delphi case, Catfished, talking about crazy details that I've discovered in legal documents as well that you may have missed. I really encourage you to watch it. I see things a little bit differently. You'll be surprised, I think, at some of the things that I caught in that. So take a look at that if you're all interested in the Delphi case about Keegan Kline and his alter ego here, Anthony Schatz, and what happened that day when he lured the girls to the Monon High Bridge. So anyways, check that out tomorrow. In the meantime, let's do our around the horn, if you will. Let's go Robin, JJ, 1-1, and then I'll close. So Robin, you want to give us some closing for the night?
All right. Well, this was a fantastic night. Great conversations. So thank you, gentlemen, for that. Thank you to the chat for all of your engagement. I love seeing all your comments and pulling you into the conversation. Hopefully we'll get more people that want to keep coming up on panel with us. We would love to involve you live in the conversation. So you see the link. Make sure you grab it and come on up. And and whether you are here with us live or you're on the replay crew, you are just as important to us. Thank you to our fantastic mods for holding down the fort and helping keep everyone in the chat comfortable and entertained. So we appreciate Amanda and Essie and Rhonda, the She Devil, very, very much. We appreciate all you do. And great conversation, and looking forward to seeing everyone again tomorrow night.
All right. Thank you very much for that. And thanks for your monologue at the beginning, covering for 1-1. 1-1 dumped out and then came back. So hopefully he's there. We'll put him back on stage.
There
Let's
he
go,
is.
JJ for closing. What do you got?
All right. Thanks, DA, Robin, 1-1, Denizens, everybody in the chat, and the great mods, of course. Should I do my public service announcement? Maybe I won't do it tonight. Maybe I won't. I'll save it for Friday night. How's that?
Yeah.
Good discussion. Interesting to kind of, go off the rails, as I like to say. I like when we do that. And I think it's interesting. I think people appreciate hearing us go off a little bit sometimes. But I think that, we're doing our best to try to make sense of things. And when you pull on threads or of one theory or idea about any case, whichever case it is, you get to a point where time sometimes is what reveals other things. And as we're seeing now, they were focusing on the drugs in those interviews, right? It's pretty obvious. Thank you, guys. I appreciate people supporting me. So I promise you, it's coming very soon, and I hope it's going to be good. So thank you again.
Nice.
But again, you pull on threads, more information comes out. That's why you can't stop asking questions. You just can't. You have to. I get so pissed when people try to shut people down.
Yeah.
This is how knowledge is gathered, thought experiments, brainstorming. This is what should be done about more things, in my opinion. You don't give up because people tell you, no, this is what you're supposed to believe. So I believe if we all keep doing that with everything we ever talk about, and maybe we'll encourage more people to do the same. I know our chat does that. But, we need more people, more critical thinkers. Question the narratives,
100%.
guys. So thank you, everybody. We'll see you soon.
All right. Thank you so much for that. And everybody's looking forward to seeing that launch. And then 1-1, are you still there with the microphone?
I'm here. I'll try to.
Right.
Can you hear me? I'm going to go quick because I don't know if I'm going to lose service. So
Okay.
Thanks to everyone. Great discussion. Love everyone. Thanks for coming. Make sure you tune into Lee's video that is going to drop tomorrow. We appreciate everyone that comes each and every night. Special thanks, of course, to the mods. And I will leave you with a movie quote. This is not a difficult one. You should be able to get it pretty easily. But
you've said that before.
Yeah. What do you mean? I'm funny. You mean the way I talk? What?
Oh yeah.
Funny how? I mean,
Good
what's funny
fellas.
about it? But
Funny, haha.
But I'm funny how? I mean, funny like I'm a clown? I amuse you? I make you laugh? I'm here to fucking amuse you? What do you mean funny? Funny how? How am I funny? How the fuck am I funny? What the fuck is so funny about me? Tell me. Tell me what's funny.
Yeah, buddy. That's a gangster movie right there. Was it the Goodfellas? Was that the right one?
Yes.
Though, or?
Yeah, that's
nice.
right.
Nice. Good job.
That's like one of the
Yeah.
most famous scenes in Goodfellas.
And that's the actor
Joe
I can see
Pesci.
his Pesci. Yes, I can
Pesci.
see the
Yep.
little
Yes.
guy running his mouth. How is it a guy so short intimidates the piss out of everybody when he plays a fucking mobster? Like you actually believe that guy will rip your head off and pop your eyeball out.
He played a great psycho in that movie, man.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. All right. As for me, thank you everybody for coming to another Crimes After Dark and hanging out with us. We've got a very loyal crew that comes and hangs out with us, and we appreciate that very much. Hope that you will check out my drop tomorrow at 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. If you're into the Delphi case, I hope that you'll enjoy that. I put a lot of time and effort into it. I did some things different that you've never seen me do before. So hopefully you check that out as well. Until next time, everybody, have a great evening, and we'll see you later.
Good night,
Good
everybody.
night.